What if I told you that the greatest threat to America's energy future doesn't come from oil scarcity, but from what's left behind? At first glance, the Texas desert looks calm, yet within seconds, the faint hiss of bubbles and a metallic odor betray a hidden danger. The well is leaking. What's escaping from the ground isn't just gas, it's the image of a revolution beginning to rot from within. Welcome to Tellnomics, the channel where we connect numbers to power and uncover what's really behind the world's economic empires. Today, we'll explore how the Permian Basin, the very symbol of U.S. energy independence, might be turning into an underground time bomb. Located between West Texas and southeastern New Mexico, the Permian Basin accounts for over 40% of all U.S. oil output, according to the Energy Information Administration, EIA 2024. It's the beating heart of the so-called shale miracle, the boom that over the past decade pushed the United States ahead of Saudi Arabia and Russia as the world's top oil producer. But every miracle has a price. Beneath the surface lies a silent crisis that few dare to expose, and it begins with water. For every barrel of oil extracted, 3 to 5 barrels of contaminated water are produced, according to a 2023 study by the American Geophysical Institute. This water, intensely saline, laced with heavy metals and radioactive residue, is pumped back into the ground, a practice designed to reduce surface contamination. But what happens when the Earth itself begins to push back? Internal pressures build up, fractures widen, and old forgotten wells rise again, like zombies from the underworld. Environmental lawyer and activist Sarah Stogner describes the situation as a layer cake ready to collapse. Each new drill destabilizes the delicate geological structure that holds up the region. It's as if Texas is building its empire on ground that's literally caving in. And the most alarming part? There's growing evidence that officials knew the risks all along. Why does the very state that fueled America's energy renaissance now seem intent on concealing the signs of an ecological disaster in motion? What's leaking beneath the Permian Basin isn't just oil. It's the truth about the limits of a model that promises prosperity but delivers instability. Across the arid expanse of West Texas, black gold gushes from the depths of the earth, but alongside it flows something the oil industry prefers to keep hidden, an invisible river of toxic water. For every barrel of oil extracted from the Permian Basin, between 3 and 5 barrels of wastewater are produced, a staggering 30 million barrels per day, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA 2024. This water is anything but harmless. It's up to 5 times saltier than the ocean, tainted with lead, arsenic, and traces of radioactive materials. And all of it must go somewhere. The chosen solution seems deceptively simple: re-inject it underground. But this method, while convenient, carries catastrophic consequences. By forcing billions of gallons of fluid back into the earth, internal pressure builds up, awakening ancient geological faults that had been dormant for millennia. Between 2021 and 2023, the U.S. Geological Survey recorded over 200 earthquakes above magnitude 3 in the Permian, a region that had rarely trembled in modern history. Texas, once known for its stability, now rivals California in seismic activity. But why should this matter to anyone outside Texas? Because this toxic water isn't just a local issue. It's a mirror reflecting the hidden cost of the oil that powers the entire world. As barrel prices rise and fall in New York and London, the ground beneath Texas is literally sinking. The irony is brutal. The more the United States fights to preserve its energy independence, the deeper it digs into geological instability. Imagine driving through a flat desert highway when the ground suddenly cracks beneath your car. This is no exaggeration. It's happening in counties like Culberson and Reeves, where abandoned wells have started leaking oil and gas through surface fissures. Engineers call them zombie wells, a haunting metaphor for an industry that refuses to die, only to return in more dangerous forms. And through all this chaos, one question reverberates. How far can the oil industry push before nature demands full payment? At first, the tremors were so faint that locals thought a heavy truck was passing by. But soon, the vibrations deepened, a steady, unsettling pulse beneath their feet. Between 2021 and 2023, the Permian Basin registered over 300 earthquakes per year, according to data from the U.S. Geological Survey. A region once known for its stability now shakes as if struggling to breathe. The paradox is striking. The same ground that made Texas the powerhouse of the American economy now threatens to swallow the fruits of its own abundance. Researchers at the University of Texas have shown that these quakes aren't caused directly by hydraulic fracturing, but by the injection of contaminated wastewater back into the earth. Each disposal well, pumping millions of gallons into the subsurface, alters the pressure of entire rock layers, reactivating ancient fault lines. It's as though the planet itself were trying to expel what humanity forced inside it. Nature's restraint has snapped, and its response now rumbles from below. But something even more alarming has emerged. In 2022, an investigation by the Texas Tribune revealed that seismic activity was inching closer to urban areas, cities like Midland and Odessa, home to more than 300,000 residents. Picture schools, office buildings, and oil pipelines standing atop unstable ground made fragile by the very industry that sustains it. It's the collapse of quiet safety, a reminder that progress always leaves cracks behind. As pressure mounts, the oil companies have responded with a drastic shift in tactics. Their solution? Move the wastewater injections from deeper layers to shallower ones. On paper, it sounds like a fix, but is bringing the problem closer to the surface truly safer or simply more visible? Every attempt to contain disaster seems to birth a new one. And Texas, a state accustomed to surviving hurricanes and droughts, now faces a threat from below. An enemy without a face, invisible yet powerful enough to reshape its very foundation. It was a hasty decision, a bandage placed over a wound that kept bleeding. In an effort to curb the growing number of earthquakes, Texas authorities authorized companies to shift their wastewater injections from deep underground layers to shallower ones. The plan sounded simple enough, but the earth does not forgive shortcuts. Pressure that was once contained miles below began to rise. Within months, the quick fix turned chaotic. Abandoned wells, some left untouched for decades, started spewing toxic fluids back to the surface. These became known as zombie wells, the dead resurrected, spitting oil and brine where there should be nothing but dust. Engineers from the University of Texas documented cases where these contaminated fluids seeped through invisible cracks, reaching aquifers and groundwater reserves that supply entire towns. According to the Groundwater Protection Council, 2024, at least 80 disposal wells showed leakage beyond their primary casings, a terrifying figure for one of the most drilled regions on the planet. The consequences were immediate: gas leaks, soil erosion, and even oil geysers erupting on private property, coating the land in a corrosive black film. "I hate getting wet," joked one technician, watching fluid gush from a pipe that should have been sealed 700 meters below ground. The scene could be mistaken for a post-apocalyptic movie, except it's real and well documented. Activist Sarah Stogner began calling these wells the undead of the oil industry, symbols of a crisis that Texas refuses to bury. "They're pushing too much water, and the ground is pushing back," she told Texas Monthly, 2023. What makes this more disturbing is that it was all predicted. Internal company reports had long warned about overpressure risks and containment failures, but profit outweighed caution. Today, the Texan soil resembles a chemical minefield, a vast network of underground wounds threatening to tear open the thin barrier between prosperity and environmental catastrophe. When Sarah Stogner decided to investigate what was really happening in the Permian Basin, she didn't expect to uncover a nightmare buried as deep as the oil that fuels America's economy. A lawyer and former advisor to energy companies, she became one of the loudest and most inconvenient voices in Texas. What began as minor complaints about small leaks soon turned into a journey across abandoned wells gushing thick, foul-smelling crude oil that should have been locked 700 meters underground. "We're digging up the industry's past," she said during a 2023 public hearing quoted by Reuters, "and it reeks." According to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, more than 50 old wells have suffered casing failures over the past 2 years. The cause? The growing pressure from toxic wastewater injections in newer horizontal wells. It's as if the Texan subsoil were a layered cake, drilled, patched, and now collapsing under its own weight. "When you take too much, it sinks. When you push too much, it cracks," explains geologist Peter Hennings of the University of Texas. The result is surreal. The ground is rising in some areas and sinking in others, while oil resurfaces through forgotten fissures. Meanwhile, the big oil companies remain silent. Chevron, ExxonMobil, and other operators know that admitting the problem would mean confessing to systemic failures in a model that moves billions of dollars every single day. And at the center of that silence lies the very institution meant to protect public interests, the Texas Railroad Commission. Founded in the 19th century to regulate railroads, it now oversees the oil and gas industry, and maintains deep ties with the very companies it's supposed to monitor. Sarah Stogner accuses the commission of living between reports and denials, ignoring warnings about leaks and contamination. In her words, what's gushing out of those wells isn't just oil. It's the truth they've been trying to bury. Her statement captures the essence of an industry built on unstable ground, one that's running out of places to hide. Despite its name, the Texas Railroad Commission has nothing to do with trains. It is the state's powerful regulatory agency for oil and gas, an invisible force that has operated in the shadows for more than a century. Documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act reveal that by mid-2023, the Commission was already aware of the dangers linked to shallow, toxic water injections. In a confidential presentation prepared for the Texas Pipeline Association, never released to the public, one slide carried a stark warning: dangers of rising reservoir pressure. The bullet points were chilling: containment failures, well structure damage, pipe corrosion, contamination of drinking water aquifers, and unexpected surface flows. In other words, the same agency approving new drilling permits already knew that the entire disposal model was on the verge of collapse, yet operations continued. According to reporting by the Texas Tribune, more than 20 companies were granted shallow injection permits between October and December 2023, even after internal memos flagged serious and confirmed risks. It's as if both the regulators and the regulated were reading from the same manual and sharing the same silence. The numbers are devastating. The Environmental Defense Fund estimates that the Permian Basin hosts over 300,000 active wells, with around 15,000 showing some degree of pressure failure or leakage in the past 5 years. This isn't just an environmental hazard. It's an economic ticking bomb. Each incident can cost millions of dollars in damages and compensation, yet the political cost of admitting fault seems far higher. The Commission has been repeatedly warned about field reports of ruptures and toxic eruptions, but many of these incidents were reclassified as isolated events. Meanwhile, residents living near affected towns now live with the constant fear that the next eruption could happen in their own backyards. The question becomes unavoidable. When the guardian of public safety acts as the industry's shield, who is left to protect the people? With disaster looming, the oil industry has tried to rewrite the narrative. Its new slogan? Produced water reuse. Corporations now tout ambitious pilot projects to transform toxic waste into treated water, turning an environmental liability into an economic asset. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, ongoing research has achieved up to 99% impurity removal in laboratory conditions, producing water nearly as pure as distilled. The vision sounds inspiring. This water could someday cool industrial plants, aid construction, or even irrigate crops. But reality has a much higher price. In 2024, the Texas Water Development Board estimated that treating all wastewater from the Permian Basin would cost over $10 billion annually, a figure unsustainable even for the energy giants. And another obstacle looms: extreme salinity. The brine's mineral and heavy metal content is so concentrated that desalination consumes nearly as much energy as oil production itself. It's like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Still, companies persist, because failure is more expensive than illusion. While technology advances slowly, the numbers surge upward. In 2018, the Permian produced around 10 million barrels of wastewater per day. By 2022, it reached 18 million, and today it surpasses 30 million, according to the Bureau of Economic Geology at the University of Texas. Each aging well produces more water and less oil, a vicious cycle turning America's energy heartland into a well of contradictions. Meanwhile, in the silent Texan desert, pipelines hum, derricks spin, and the metallic scent of oil lingers in the dry wind. Bobcats, deer, and eagles move through lands scarred by invisible rivers of brine. What once symbolized prosperity now mirrors the exhaustion of an empire. Yet some still believe redemption is possible, that the same ingenuity which caused this crisis could one day resolve it. But the question remains: are we truly solving the problem or merely delaying the inevitable? If you've made it this far, subscribe to Tellnomics, like this video, and share it, because what's leaking beneath Texas today may soon seep into the entire world.